Hi, my name is David Alexander. Well, actually, I guess if you're watching this video, you probably realize who I am. I'm going to do a quick presentation for you today. Basically, I'm going to go through the Member Extravaganza Director 2 presentation. I'm bringing this to you because Hugh Gray actually asked me to do this. He said, hey, you know what, with all the Visitors Days coming up, I think our directors would love to see exactly how to do this 10-minute presentation. So I had a conversation with him. And in that conversation, I tried to come up with a couple of neat ideas, maybe a couple of exercises, something to kind of throw in. And everybody watching this video obviously knows you well. And his comment to everything I said was, David, follow the system. David, follow the system. So I am following the system exactly as it's laid out. I'm just simply going to insert some stories. I'm going to insert some information. And you can use your own stories. When I insert a story into a particular part of this, feel free to include your own. But before I get started, though, I do want to give you a quick sort of overview just on how to do an effective presentation. Whether it's this presentation, you can certainly tie this in for other presentations that you use as well. And I actually got this information from Doug Grady, President of High Achievers Network. I've also heard a similar thing from Norm Dominguez, the CEO of BNI. Actually, Norm says, tell them what you told them and tell them again. I'm going to give you an approach with a few more steps, actually one more step, that Doug shared with me. Now, I'll actually write it up on the board real quick, the initials anyways. A, W, P, C. And really what this means is whenever you do a presentation, you want to have an approach to the presentation. In other words, you want to sort of get ready, get it set up. In the case of the presentation I'm going to do for you in a few minutes, how I'm going to set that up is using interesting statistics. But you can kind of think about this as a ball game. If you're getting ready to play a football game, your approach to the ball game, and maybe you're jamming the music, you're turning the volume up, you're getting yourself psyched, you're just kind of getting yourself in the right mindset. That's sort of the approach to what you're getting ready to do. And you want to do the same thing with the audience. You want to get them kind of jazzed up and ready for what you're getting ready to share with them. Then W stands for warm-up. A lot of times what I will do, and that's just something else Doug shared with me, a lot of times what I will do when I'm getting the audience warmed up is I will engage them at this point. I will, maybe I'm talking about some particular topic, and I will just simply ask them, okay, folks, has this ever happened to you? How did you handle it? What did you do about it? Just to kind of get them engaged with the process. So that's the warm-up. And then we have the presentation of the main points. Boom, 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 boom. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to help you out. Then, lastly, we have the C, which is the close. And the close is basically, who's willing to take the next step? Who's willing to take some action? Who's willing to make it happen? Who's willing to kind of follow through with some of the stuff that we've said? So let's look at the presentation as outlined in your blue book, by the way, the Member Extravaganza blue book. I'll even hold it up here so you can see. You'll see my notes. 10-minute presentation outline. And so let's talk real quick. Actually, I'm going to go through the overview of it, and then I'll tell you what I believe are the parts that are the approach, the warm-up, the presentation, and the close, as outlined on this sheet of paper. First, I think the approach is the introduction. The introduction of this presentation is where we really talk about BNI and give some key statistics to BNI, which I'll show you the ones I would do. I'll show you those in a few minutes when I do the presentation. The overview and what I would really call the warm-up on the document is called overview, the warm-up. And this is really where we're going to talk about the key principles that are the basis of BNI's strength. We're kind of warming them up to the presentation. The presentation, of course, which is three topics: structure, commitment, and education. Now, during the warm-up, one of the things, as I said a few minutes ago, that I like to do is I like to ask a question. The question when I show you this presentation is, how many of you have been a part of something that did not work? And then the next question with that is, if you've been a part of something that didn't work, then why? What happened? Why didn't it work? Then moving on to the presentation, of course. The presentation is the three topics that are listed on the paper: structure, commitment, education. And I'm going to give some examples for each one of those when I do the presentation in a few minutes so you can kind of get a flavor of what I would do. Then the close, well actually it says close on the paper, so that's perfect. Then the close is where we're going to invite people, and actually keep in mind, when you look at the whole Visitors Day presentation, there's two directors. You have Director 1, who's the sort of the master of ceremonies, running the whole meeting. They're going to do the real application close at the end of the session. However, the 10-minute presenter is going to do really what I would call a trial close. And that trial close is to at least get people thinking on going ahead and making the commitment. I got to tell you, if you really nail this presentation, you will have people filling out the application right there. I mean, because really what we offer is second to none. It's an unbelievable opportunity to grow your business for very little money, actually. And so I've literally seen and have done this before where people say, well, how do I do it? You know, they don't even have applications yet, but they're already trying to ask their neighbor, ask the person who invited them, how do I do it? You know, how do I get plugged in? So a couple of other ideas here as far as setup goes. Make sure that your director, the Director 1, the director running the meeting, gives you a great introduction. Of course, you want to make sure they have your bio, they have something that you've handed to them so that they can do that introduction for you. So make sure they give you a great introduction. Also, during the Director 1's presentation, when they open up the meeting and have members do introductions and do all that, they are also going to talk briefly about our topic here, the topic of structure, commitment, training, and education. Don't worry about that. You know, it kind of falls back into what I said a few minutes ago. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them again. So don't stress out, you know, when you're show up at the meeting to do your presentation and Director 1 kind of stole your thunder. They didn't. You're actually going to give a whole lot more details. So make sure you get a real solid presentation, or excuse me, a solid introduction before you get started. So, and actually, you know, I'm going to have some notes here because I'm, you know, really trying to, you know, make sure that I don't miss anything. I would suggest that you do this 3 or 4 times prior to doing it in this chapter, and just maybe write everything down on a little note card. You know, so you don't have to have a big piece of paper floating around. Or, you know, sometimes I just simply will take my notes and kind of fold them in half, so it's not quite as big as a piece of paper like this. So do whatever you want to with that. Also, remember, you're going to be speaking to a very large audience. You could quite possibly be speaking to 100, 150, maybe even 200 people at some of these events. So make sure you enunciate well, make sure you speak clearly. If there's a microphone, hopefully you will have access to that microphone, that lavalier mic, so that people can hear you clearly. If you have any questions about this, you know, talk to Hugh, call me. I'm happy to walk you through how to do it. They say that speaking is like the #1 fear that people have, worse than spiders, which frankly I don't see how that's possible because spiders scare me to death. But anyway, another topic. So if you have some jitters, that's normal. You know, if you're feeling kind of nervous before this, gosh, I'm feeling nervous now, and all I'm doing is speaking to a camera and a computer. There's not even anybody in the room right now, and I'm nervous. So if you feel a little nervous, that's okay. Actually, that makes you better. That helps you be stronger in your presentation. Okay, so remember, just as a review, I'm getting ready to do the presentation for you. Hopefully, if things go well, it'll be right at about 10 minutes, maybe even a little bit less. So I'm going to have an approach that I'm going to start with. My approach is going to be talking a little bit about B&I, you know, where we are, giving a couple of good statistics. Then we're going to have the warm-up. Then we're going to have the presentation, and then we're going to have the close. If you want to add, if you have some, you know, some funny, you know, humor or something like that, and you want to add that into your approach, that's fine. I actually have a joke or two that I sometimes tell when I'm doing these types of presentations. I'm not going to do it now because, you know, some people might be comfortable adding in some humor, others may not be, and that's fine. I want you to do this where you're real comfortable with it. Okay, so let's just say that somebody just gave me a great introduction. Excuse me. Maybe I should drink a water before I get into my presentation. So let's just say I just got a great introduction, and I'm off and rolling. We'd like to give David Alexander, Executive Director of B&I, a big round of applause. He's going to stand up for a couple of minutes, and talk to us a little bit about BNI. So here we go. Good morning. My name is David Alexander. I am really excited to be here with you today. I love BNI. I love what it's all about, and I love seeing such a great group of people here engaged, ready to help each other grow their business. Really cool stuff. I wanted to start with a couple of statistics that I think you might find interesting. The first one is, what is the most important decision that people have when making a referral to another person? We all know the importance of referrals, right? Referrals are absolutely huge to our business. I mean, when they come in, we tend to make more money, higher closing ratio. Referrals are fantastic. But what is the one characteristic that we look for? This is actually taken as a survey off the BNI.com website. One thing that we look for when referring business to another person. Any ideas? The answer is character. 49.4%, almost 50% of people consider character as the #1 trait when it comes to referring business to somebody else. Moral of the story is it makes sense to know, like, and trust the people that you're willing to refer your business to. Another interesting statistic, over 41% of people plan to spend a majority of their marketing efforts on referral marketing. That's interesting, because we listed like 10 different things: advertising, direct mail, cold calling, all kinds of stuff. Over 41% of people are interested or are going to spend a majority of their marketing efforts on referral marketing. And this is something else I thought was interesting. 64% of people don't even have a system to do that. And so I think what that tells us is people are really plugged into the fact that referral marketing is huge for business. It's absolutely critical to success. However, I think that people really don't realize how to make that happen. They don't have a system in place. Well, one of the things I want to teach you today is a system. BNI is truly a system. As a matter of fact, it's an incredibly effective system for referral marketing. And you've been invited here today to learn a little bit about the organization. But before I go any further, I do want to give you some quick stats on BNI. BNI is an amazing company. We've been around for over 25 years now. We actually have over 6,000 chapters. 6,000 chapters in 48 countries around the world. Huge organization. Last year, get this, last year our members passed over $3 billion worth of business to one another. $3 billion worth of business to one another. Absolutely incredible. So BNI is an awesome organization. We have great stuff that we do, and it produces huge results. One of the reasons that it produces big results is because of the structure that's in place with BNI. Just out of curiosity, does anybody know the definition of a system? Well, actually, you know what? There's so many people here. I'm just going to tell it to you. Here's the definition of a system. A system is an accurate, established procedure that works every time for everyone. It's an accurate, established procedure that works every time for everyone. Now, here's the big key, though, comma. For those who follow the system. One of the things I want to teach you today is I want to teach you that BNI truly, the basic principles, the big basic principles that make BNI work are the following: structure, commitment, and education and training. Structure is key to our organization, commitment is key to our organization, and education and training is certainly key to our organization. So, just by show of hands, have you ever been a part of something before that didn't work? And this could be a networking group, this could be, some sort of athletic thing, this could be a business group, this is anything. Have you ever been a part of something that didn't work? Probably all of us have. If you're not raising your hand, I'll wait a second till everybody does, because we've probably all been a part of something that did not work before. And usually the reasons things don't work is they either lack structure, or they lack commitment, or they lack an educational component to their system. So I want to spend the next few minutes talking to you about those three pillars within BNI, and sort of explain to you how these things work. Structure, excuse me. Okay, now folks, pause for a second. because I'm not going to do this video over 14 minutes into it now. Try not to lose your place like I did. So the first topic, back on track. First topic I want to talk to you about is structure in BNI. BNI has a tremendous amount of structure. The reason we have structure is structure creates success. I shared with you a few minutes ago that BNI members last year passed over $3 billion worth of business to one another. That's over $25,000 per seat. In other words, a seat inside of your chapter is worth over $25,000. Many chapters is obviously well more than that. And that's partially because of the structure that we have in the organization. A lot of times people will come to me after going to a BNI meeting and say, wow, I was blown away by that. You know, you have all these people and everything's working so good. I mean, it's just a well-oiled machine. At the end of the day, you know, it produces a lot of business. It produces big results. That is because of the structure we have in place. When you look at BNI, we have a lot of structure at the chapter level. We have a leadership team, which was introduced earlier, that runs the chapter. That leadership team goes through training with us every 6 months to learn how to make the chapter better, how to grow the chapter, how to make the members' experience better. In addition to that, we have director teams. There's over 1,000 directors of BNI, like myself, 1,000 directors throughout the world that work directly with our chapters and with the leadership teams, helping ensure their success. We do have policies and procedures, of course. Now, it's interesting, though. BNI doesn't have that many policies. As a matter of fact, all of our policies fit into one little big policies brochure. You'd think an organization with 6,000 chapters in 48 countries would have a policy book, not a little brochure. However, our policies are created by members. They're created by the International Board of Advisors, which is an advisory board of members that makes recommendations for policy to BNI. So the policies that we have work. One of the key ones is, I want everybody to really think about this today, because I don't want you to spend your money if you can't do these. One of the key policies in BNI is you've got to be here to make this work. You can only miss 3 absences every 6 months inside of BNI. Now, you can have a substitute. If you have a substitute place, then the absence does not count against you. So, you know, I want you to really be kind of focused on that. Make sure you can make that commitment. BNI is a very top-of-mind activity. You can kind of think about the people in the room, the 20, 30 members who are in the room. You can think about those people as your extended sales force. The cool thing is all you have to do is refer them business. You don't have to put them on the payroll. You don't have to provide benefits. You just have to give them referrals, give them business. Next is a commitment. You truly have to make a commitment to be a part of this organization. And the financial commitment is not the biggest commitment. I think that the biggest commitment is time. You have to be willing to come every single week to your BNI meeting, network with your other members, and then outside of the BNI meeting, you have to be willing to do some one-on-ones with your members. You have to be willing to look for business opportunity for each other at every single chance that you have. You all carry around little card files that have your cards in there, and you're looking for opportunities. And so you have to make a real solid commitment to be a part of this organization for it to work well for you. And then finally, education and training. Education and training is huge in BNI. I believe it was Brian Tracy that said this. To earn more, you must learn more. There are no exceptions to this rule. And so this is a huge side benefit about joining BNI. If you decide to plug in and be a part of this, not only do you get membership in the networking group, you also get access to a tremendous amount of training. One of the first things that you'll get to go to right out of the gate is called Member Success Program. It's a 3.5 hour training program on how to make the most of your membership in BNI. The cool thing is we're going to teach you amazing topics like how to do great presentations, how to do great elevator pitches, how to find referrals for one another, how to do strategic marketing meetings with one another. Much of this stuff you can apply outside of BNI, and it's included in your membership. In addition to that, we do a webinar every month that you can plug into. All that's included. We train our leadership teams. Get this, we actually do over 200,000 man hours, in-person hours, directors training hours that we're training the leadership teams of our chapters every single year. Oh, by the way, that doesn't count an educational coordinator. Our chapters have educational coordinators that bring education right to the chapter level. That doesn't count all the advanced training that we do. Speaking of advanced training, We do 4 advanced trainings a year in our region. And we really have turned these into big community events. As a matter of fact, we sold out some of the first ones that we did earlier this year. So plug into those. That series is called Networking Redefined. Some of the topics include top 10 ways to get more referrals for your business, speaking, how to do effective 10-minute presentations, power teams and contact spheres, building power teams and contact spheres within your chapters. Great topics, great presentations. You can go to bnisoutheast.com/events and check those out. So all that is included in your membership. Education for us is huge. And so if you plug in, I want to make sure that you go to all that stuff. If you went to all that stuff and paid the non-member price for it, it would be well over $500 or $600 a year just for the training programs that we offer. So I definitely want you to plug in. That's just a huge part of our program. So finally, in wrapping things up a bit, I want to share a quick story with you. I want to share with you how I almost did not join BNI. This was about, probably 17, 18 years ago. I was called by a guy, his name's Dan Rawls. As a matter of fact, he's a director in BNI today, and we're great friends now. I was called by him, and he literally called me about this thing called BNI probably 10 times, and I told him, I'm not interested, I'm not interested, I'm not interested, I don't want to go. As a matter of fact, you call me again, I'll hang up with you, I'll hang up on you, I really don't want to go. And then finally, somebody else tapped me on the shoulder in my office and said, hey David, would you go substitute for me at my BNI meeting? So I thought to myself, oh gosh, I guess I'll go check this thing out. I don't really want to. And I had all the excuses. I mean, everything I had it nailed. Meetings too early, the weather's too bad, I didn't want to take the time to do it. I didn't have the time, too busy, cost too much money. I mean, whatever. I had all the objections down, which is why I kept saying no. I didn't want to do it. But I went to this meeting. This was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'll never forget it. There were 40 people in the room, and all these people started passing referrals around. This blew me away. I actually lost track at 80 referral slips passed. And I've never seen anything like that before, because up until that point, everything I had done had been based on cold calling. So I saw all these people passing all these referrals, just blew me away. I was so impressed. Now keep in mind, I avoided going to a BNI meeting. I avoided plugging in for probably 6 months. All of that missed opportunity. Unbelievable. For 6 months. When I finally did plug in, I was getting ready to move from Tennessee back to North Carolina, which is my home state. And due to a family situation, I wanted to be close to my grandparents. And so I moved back and actually started my own BNI chapter. I believed in it so much. I saw the power of it so much at that point. I started my own BNI chapter. And I truly made a huge transition. I went from having business, all my business coming in from cold calling basically, to all my business coming in from referral marketing. Now, I'm excited to say I've even co-authored a book called Networking Like a Pro on referral marketing. So I've gone from not knowing anything about it 18 years ago to writing the book on it, which is pretty cool. So fast forward another year or two, and my sales in BNI, as a result of that decision to plug in, to make it happen, and keep in mind with me, plugging in meant I built my own chapter in a city that had no BNI chapters at the time. So I plugged in, as a result of that, I became the top salesperson at the company I worked with and sold over $270,000 in my last year as a member of BNI with a quota of $200,000 at the company I was working with, which was absolutely phenomenal. So I invite you today to do something. I invite you to take action. I invite you to plug in. We all know the importance of referral marketing and how key that is to our success. So I want you to get an application. I want you to lock out your competition. I want you to plug in today and get more referrals and start growing your business. I want to thank everybody for coming today. I really appreciate you having me here. If you have any questions about BNI or would like to speak to me after the meeting, just come see me. I want to hang around for a while. And now I'm going to turn it back over to the other director who is running our meeting. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Thanks. Okay, so I just about cut the camera off, but I realized I didn't need to cut the camera off. Now that presentation actually was about 13 minutes. So I went a little bit long. And here's the thing, the reason I went a little bit long was I didn't practice. I didn't really practice much before this video. So, and just so that this has kind of taught me something. One of the things I want to do when I redo this presentation again is I'm going to want to tighten it up a little bit. I want to tighten the stories up a little bit. I want to make sure that I don't get too distracted and go off on too many tangents. But as you saw, clearly, we had the approach to the training, the A. We had the approach. The approach was kind of getting people in the right mindset. I read and used a couple of statistics to do that, showed the BNI numbers to do that. We had the warm-up, which is where I asked them the question, have you ever been a part of something that didn't work? And we had some discussion around that. We had the presentation, which was covering the 3 topics of structure, commitment, education. And then we had the close. Now, in the close, I actually, I shared a story. I wrapped a personal story in for me around how I almost did not take the step to plug into BNI. Now, think about it. If I hadn't taken the step to plug into BNI, my life would be totally different right now. And probably not, probably wouldn't be as successful as I am today. So one of the things I want to do, and the purpose of that story was to get people to think, okay, you know what? I have a decision today. I have a decision to keep doing what I'm doing. And actually, if you don't want to share that story, something else that you could share with the close is you could share this. You could just share with the audience. Look, folks, you have a decision to make today. You can make a decision to continue to do what you've been doing, and your business will probably continue to do what it's been doing, which maybe it's not growing quite as fast as you'd like for it to. Or you can make a decision today to fill out a BNI application, get plugged into this group of people who are going to all work very hard and very diligently on helping you build your business. I encourage you to do something versus doing the same thing and expecting different results. So I invite you to submit your application, blah, 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 go on through the thing. So you could use maybe that scenario versus a personal story. But I think it's great for you to weave in personal stories through this presentation. I think it's also great, if possible, if you can weave in some stories of what members that you are familiar with, members that you've interacted with, some of the stuff that they've done. If you have a story from a member about how making the commitment to BNI paid off in a big way, that would be an awesome story to plug in to that part of the presentation about commitment. If you have some stories, and actually I was going to share a couple stories here, but I looked at the clock and realized I was already out of time. If you have some stories, on education and training, it's a great time to plug in some stories on education and training during this part as well. Because lots of members have incredible stories around what they've learned, the skills that they've learned going through our training programs, and then taking those skills back, plugging it in, learning and plugging it in, and then generate more referrals and more business as a result. Basically, at the end of the day, we just want people to walk away, even if they don't join, even if they don't fill out an application. Hopefully people will fill out an application, they'll get plugged in, and we can help them grow their business. But even if they don't, we still want them to walk away with a great experience. We want them to walk away with members' cards in their pocket. They can potentially refer or connect one day. We want them to maybe refer themselves to other people in the chapter. If they're getting ready to buy a house or buy a business or do something, maybe we can get them connected with people in the chapter, and then they may want to get engaged a little bit later on. So ultimately, we just want people to have a really good experience when they come to the Member Extravaganza event. We want the 10-minute presentation to be really good and get our points across there. So any questions, feel free to call me, call Hugh Gray, and we'll help you out in any way that we can. And I hope to see all of you soon at a Member Extravaganza event near you. Thanks. Talk to you soon.